Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. First up, we have the Senate finance version of their big, beautiful bill with some changes and unfortunately not in the direction many of us were hoping for. It's definitely not a done deal. There are plenty of questions about how the Senate vote will go. And for a while, Trump had wanted the bill on his desk by July 4th, but now the word is that's not going to happen. For now, the whisper timeline, if you will, is sometime in August, but anything can happen. As a refresher, the House bill was set to end the EV tax credit at the end of this year, but that version would have a carve-out going until the end of 2026 for automakers that had not made 200,000 qualifying vehicles for sale in the US. But now, the Senate version is taking a more aggressive timeline. Their changes would go into effect 180 days after the passage of the bill, rather than the end of this year. But if you do the math and assume that this bill were to hypothetically be passed in August, that 180 days would take us until February of next year, which would actually be 2 extra months. We've talked about it numerous times before. This is not great for Tesla's margins. They'll likely have to lower prices a bit, but it will still be the best positioned EV maker, and it's not even close from a competitive standpoint. And yes, we can expect some pull forward of demand into Q3 and Q4 this year. The Senate version also proposes an immediate end to the credit for EV leases that don't qualify for the purchasing credit. Translation, that leasing loophole would be gone immediately. And the $4,000 tax credit for used EVs would be gone 90 days after passage of the bill. And remember, because this bill is using the reconciliation process, that would be an additional step if this were to pass the Senate before it goes to Trump's desk. The Senate version cuts the investment tax credit, the 30% one we've been talking about, by 2028, and the 25D, which is the residential solar tax credit, by the end of this year. Cutting the tax credit for solar and wind energy projects, which cover around 30% of the system costs. That credit would be reduced to 60% of its value by the end of 2026, 20% of its value by the end of 2027, and all projects starting construction by 2028 are ineligible altogether. And for the residential solar tax credit, that's cut 180 days after the bill is enacted into law. And yes, it's the same for residential efficiency projects like batteries and heat pump credits. A silver lining on the utility side for battery storage, tax credit transferability is going to be retained under this version of the bill. If you've been following along for the past year, you might remember some articles talking about that opening up a lot of new activity in that sector. But so much of life is perspective, and recall the House bill would have required climate projects to start construction within 60 days of enactment. But with this Senate proposal, they would have until the end of this year to receive the full credit amount, which is likely why a professor of battery storage systems said this draft is hot trash and terrible for America, but it is marginally better for clean energy credits. But yes, there are parts that are not better, like the phase out for these clean energy projects ending in 2028, so that timeline is shortened significantly, whereas before it was out to 2032. The Senate text does have carve-outs though for hydro, nuclear, and geothermal, allowing those to receive the full credit if they begin construction before 2034. However, it seems to me that everybody is missing one of the biggest points of this draft. It keeps the energy storage investment tax credit. So regarding the investment tax credit, energy storage is in these exemptions, if you will, which means it'll continue the original timeline where the phase out begins in 2032, receiving 100% of the credit in 2033, 75% in 2034, 50% in 2035, before it falls to 0 in 2036. And again, the transferability for tax credits is still in place. But here's the big question mark. The proposal restricts access to credits for projects receiving material assistance from prohibited foreign entities, or foreign entities of concern. Any such project that commences construction after the end of this year would not receive any credits. And of course, China is on the list of countries that's an FEOC. And unfortunately right now, as far as we know, Tesla's getting all of its batteries for its megapacks from China. But is there potentially a world where Tesla can start sourcing some batteries from a non-FEOC? First, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what's the status on Tesla's project in Nevada with that equipment from CATL where they were supposedly making LFP batteries here in America? Again, when I think of analyst questions for earnings calls, this is one that comes to mind. You think it'd be something that everybody would want to know, given that the winds have been blowing like this now for quite some time. Now, sure, I agree with you. No matter the status of that project, it's not going to be nearly big enough or enough volume to cover most of the megapack business. But there are other companies that would not be foreign entities of concern. How about LG from South Korea? How about Panasonic from Japan? It really just boils down to the cost of cells from a different supplier and the volumes, and then if the trade-off of higher costs is worth it, to continue qualifying for the investment tax credit for Tesla. And given the ITC can be up to 30% of the cost of the system, you would think Tesla would figure out a way to keep qualifying. Because megapack projects losing all credits in the next 6 months is quite different than keeping them in some capacity until 2035. Another silver lining, the advanced manufacturing credits look set to remain in place. But there are some restrictions on material assistance from those FEOCs, but Tesla's 4680 should be in the clear. Depending on the current vertical integration of Giga Nevada, a lot of those battery cells made in partnership with Panasonic should be in the clear. And I wanted to drive these points home because I see a lot of people out there saying this is just a complete wipeout of all of Tesla's credits on both sides. And yes, a majority are being wiped away, but not all of them. And there are at least some opportunities for Tesla to find workarounds. I'll grant you, not so much on the EV side, but on the energy side. For what it's worth, we have most sources believing a late September or early October passing is more realistic than the original July 4th deadline. And I really do hate to see solar getting crushed like this. For a while now, over the past few years, I was expecting much bigger growth, not just for Tesla, but for the industry as a whole in America. And sure, there have been some victories here and there, but by and large, things are not trending in a positive direction for solar, which I find incredibly disappointing. And to wrap this section for now on a positive note, the $250 annual registration fee in the House version has been stripped from this version. And yes, the $100 annual fee for hybrids has been removed as well, and the reason is actually quite funny. The Senate dropped the fee due to logistical and procedural issues, saying the idea was too burdensome to implement. It's impossible. There's no mechanism today for the federal government to collect an annual fee. It doesn't exist. It would cost us more money to create a system to collect the money. I mean, if there was ever a statement that encapsulated the current status of the US government, I think that would be a great one. So again, this is just a draft right now. There could still be changes ahead. One other point I really want to drive home, so many people are out there making dogmatic statements about exactly how all of this is going to play out, but when you really read what's going on, there's a lot more nuance, at least on the energy side. One example, the bill text also introduced a formula for calculating whether a project received material assistance from a foreign entity that would preclude it from being eligible for the incentives. My point is, for everybody that does not have deep insight into Tesla's supply chain setup, there are going to be questions when it comes to Tesla's Megapack if they'll find a way to continue qualifying. The chatter around BYD and its finances continues to go south. It was reported their accounts payable has soared to $35 billion as of the end of March. The government has been urging BYD and others to pay its suppliers faster, and BYD just came out and said they're going to pay suppliers now in 60 days, whereas before, sometimes it was close to 1 year. Back around 2020, BYD set up this system called D-Chain, which was effectively electronic debt instruments. BYD would use these to pay suppliers instead of immediate cash payments, and then these were treated like notes. But they were recorded as accounts payable in BYD's financial statements. And then BYD's suppliers could actually sell these D-Chain receivables, they call them, like bonds, to third parties if they wanted early payment. But despite that feature, there have been reports that some of BYD's suppliers have left BYD's supply chain because they don't want to deal with the long wait time for payments. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've spent years studying BYD's financials because I haven't. But I think there's enough noise coming from the drums right now that would lead us to believe this is a situation worth monitoring for not just BYD, but the Chinese EV industry at large. I'll let you guys in on a quick behind the scenes of an electrified day. After breakfast, I go for a 1 to 2 mile walk, sometimes with Ashley, sometimes solo. I get home, whip up my AG1 Next Gen, the sponsor of this video. I usually put a few drops of AG1's vitamin D3 K2 in as well, and then a splash of lemon juice. Then I'll head out to the porch if it's nice to check for the latest Tesla news. I'll catch a few rays if the sun is out, but if not, and if the bugs are bugging, I'll head inside and do my research at the kitchen table where I'll continue to sip on my AG1. And most of the time I sip on it all afternoon. I like a steady dose of the upgraded formula from about 11 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. Sometimes I'll toss ice in it, but I really do like the taste even at room temperature. AG1's actually now at Costco, and it continues to grow incredibly quickly and for good reason. It's legit and backed by research, simple as that. It's sourced very well, it's transparent in that sourcing, and they continually iterate on the formula through new research to make it better. And you can say what you will, but at 36, I'm in better shape than most people I know my age. And listen, I'm not at all saying that from an arrogant place, but from a place of wanting to encourage everyone that it's not as hard as so many think. And of course, it's not just because of AG1, but it has been a staple of my life and recovery the past few years, and I just feel better with it than without it. So yeah, fitness may not be easy, but it is simple, so don't overcomplicate it. Fuel your body with the very best sources of fuel you can, whole organic food first and foremost, and I choose AG1 Next Gen to fill in any gaps. Sleep well and consistently, and just get your body moving. Even getting in 10,000 steps a day and maybe 100 push-ups or air squats, and you'd be surprised at how your body can change over just a few months, especially if you've been mostly sedentary. So if you'd like to check out the new and improved version of AG1, you can head to drinkag1.com/electrified or use my QR code on the screen to get 5 free travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2. Unfortunately, I missed some late breaking news Friday night, so it didn't make it into the episode, but I'm sure many of you have seen it now. Tesla is now officially live on the Texas Department of Transportation website. Tesla's active with no safety driver in the Austin metro area. This image made its rounds over the weekend. Already, Tesla's coverage area is the yellow border and Waymo's is the red. The red is Austin and the yellow is Austin Metro. Now, yes, Tesla's not going to cover the entirety of the yellow region with 10 vehicles, but we all know Tesla should have the ability to scale when it feels confident to do so. If Tesla hits its target of June 22nd for the first customer rides, that would be this Sunday. I have to admit, I was somewhat fascinated yesterday watching everybody fawn over the data that Bloomberg Intelligence put out that Ed Ludlow shared. First of all, on this chart for data collected, they said Tesla's at 3 billion miles, but we know the actual data is 3.8 billion. But the issue is for Waymo, they only have 22 million miles, which means that's only data from one market. Why do I say that? Well, because if you actually look at the data on the Waymo website, you'll see San Francisco mileage through March 2025 is at 22.9 million alone. My question is, why would you compare Tesla's global mileage, which by the way isn't even really that accurate, to just one city for Waymo? And I do feel like charts like this should make the distinction that Tesla's miles are supervised, whereas Waymo's are not. And I know it is accurate because it only says data collected. For me, it just starts to toe the line of data manipulation that I've been so hyper aware of the past few weeks. Even the fleet size isn't really accurate. Waymo's supposed to be around 3,500 by the end of next year, and they're guessing Tesla's fleet is at 35,000. And it was really the crash rate data that got most of the attention, but there was a big caveat, and that's if their crash rate methodologies are comparable, that being Tesla and Waymo. And on that front, they're probably not that comparable because as far as we know, Tesla includes autopilot data in its crash safety data as well. And obviously in Tesla's case, they've always had a supervisor to intervene and avoid accidents that could have happened. Whereas Waymo's data does not have that luxury. And there's actually a lot more to this story, like what incidents are actually reported to Tesla. There have been things in the past where Tesla has gaps in its telematics data. But frankly, I don't think it's worth diving into those weeds right now. I just wanted to put these thoughts out there to kind of go against the narrative I saw over the past 48 hours. And obviously, I would love to take this data and just champion it around saying how Tesla's 10 times safer than Waymo, but frankly, I really don't think it's that fair of a comparison. I just honestly feel like it's somewhat of a sloppy, lazy report just to get clicks and headlines and mission accomplished because Elon ended up tweeting a post from Kalshi sharing this data. Have a listen to Steve's answer, and I think that'll more than prove my point. Feel free to skip to the next chapter if you don't care.
Do you see the jump to a software platform that powers a vehicle with no one in the driver's seat at all?
That's going to be a while. I have to admittedly say it's going to be a while. I think the consumer needs to gain confidence. It's going to be a gold standard. It's going to be, if a car is 99.99% accurate, I think then the consumer will be more confident. Before that, I think there's going to be always some level of monitoring from the consumer. We're not at that stage where we see, this is not like the iRobot movie that Will Smith was on a long time ago, where cars are actually driving itself and making decisions on their own. We're not at that moment yet.
Like, excuse me, what are you even talking about? Waymo's already doing it, and Tesla's about to do it for real in 5 days. So yeah, this interview and his report just felt like amateur hour to me. But I will say it made Tesla look very good because Chamath and many other notable people started sharing it, and most people just don't care about the details of the data, and that's the world we live in. But in this case, it actually works out to Tesla's advantage. Cars.com's American-made index has dropped for 2025. And having a look at the top 5, number 1, the Model 3, number 2, Model Y, number 3, Model S, number 4, Model X, and number 5, the Jeep Gladiator. If you're asking yourself, wait a second, where is the Cybertruck? Good question. But if you go to the fine print, you'll find that heavy-duty trucks like the Cybertruck and the Rivian R1T do not get fuel economy ratings or more detailed assembly information. This will probably feel like old news to longtime Tesla fans, but it's good to see Tesla remain at the top of the list with its sexy lineup. And we know if the Cybertruck were to qualify, it would be right up there toward the top as well. We got the weekly number for Tesla China. It came in at 15,500 compared to the same week in Q1. That number was 15,300. Thus, quarter over quarter, Tesla China down 3.2%. Compared to the same week in Q2 last year, that number was 11,700. And so now year over year, Tesla China is down 16.6%. And zooming out, year to date, Tesla China still down 6.3%. For the week, the breakdown was 4,300 Model 3, 11,200 Model Y. And it's true, it was the third best week so far this year. Elon shared his drug test results with the internet with an LOL to boot, and unfortunately, he is not a druggie, as many were hoping for. Here's our periodic reminder that supervised FSD is not the same software Tesla is confident about launching in Austin. As you can see, we have a Cybertruck turning into the wrong lane of a double yellow road and staying there for some time. Yes, no car was coming, but still, I think that's pretty unacceptable for the current state of affairs. But as I always say, there is good reason it is still supervised. A lot of people were confused by this post and what is swing mode. Well, it's for Tesla's HVAC system. It's really just oscillating air controls. So the vents will move back and forth automatically, but as far as I know, it's only for the new Model Y right now. It's not clear if there will be hardware limitations on other vehicles, but I'm guessing the new Model S and X will have it in time, and I would think that the Model 3 might get it in time as well. Chamath got to spend some time with Elon at his businesses recently, and his takeaway, he sat in a meeting and got to hear what they were doing, and he said it was amazing. I would not be sleeping on this company. To which I would say, welcome to the party, Chamath. Waymo is expanding to some new geographies in the San Francisco Bay Area starting today and new areas in LA later this week. Business Insider is saying that Tesla told staff that it's going to pause Cybertruck and Model Y production during the July 4th week. The pause would allow Tesla to perform maintenance on production lines. Many folks will manipulate this in many different ways. Ultimately, I think it's mostly a nothing burger. It's 1 week. And if you're going to do maintenance anyways, it would make sense to give your employees maybe a bit extra time off for the holiday. At first, I was getting my hopes up that this could have something to do with the more affordable models, since we're supposed to see those within the next 2 weeks. But the Cybertruck line would not need to be shut down for that, and then why wouldn't the Model 3 lines also be down as well? But hey, maybe these more affordable models would only start on a few Model Y lines, which would make sense out of the gate. And yes, this is the third time Tesla's had a multi-day shutdown so far this year, but we all know Tesla's factories are running materially below capacity, so this should not be a surprise. Tesla itself has said the main goal with these new, more affordable models is to actually use the current capacity it has before building new lines or new factories. I've also seen the hypothesis that June 28th delivery from factory direct to consumer with FSD is going to be a new, more affordable vehicle, but that would require Tesla launching these vehicles for sale in the next few days because the delivery process is likely to take at least 1 to 2 weeks. But wouldn't it be pretty slick if Tesla was working this all out behind the scenes in the quiet and they were going to launch these more affordable models in tandem with that first delivery from the factory? As always, personally, I'm not going to expect it because I like keeping my expectations low, but I am expecting some sort of announcement here in the next 2 weeks. Green the Only pointed out that the much rumored 6-seat Model Y made an appearance in the firmware, and he said it's unlikely to be China only, as some of the speculation said. And many are speculating this could be a 2-2-2 seat layout, meaning 2 in the front, 2 captain seats, and then 2 in the back. 6 seats would obviously be a departure from the traditional 5 or 7, and maybe we hear something about this in the next few weeks. If you've been around, you may recall April of last year, Tesla actually demonstrated FSD to the Swedish transport official. Fast forward to this year, and how does Sweden decide to move forward with FSD? Well, by denying Tesla's permission to test FSD in Stockholm. And listen to their rationale. The traffic office is currently working on updating its approach to automation. At the same time, the city and the office are heavily burdened with other ongoing innovation tests. Translation: because they're too busy, the city now assesses that it's currently not possible to approve the implementation of the FSD test. And what did I say months ago? I have a feeling that at least some countries across the EU are going to push back on Tesla's FSD unnecessarily. My rationale: it was going to be politically motivated, but they would cloak it in something else. Well, guess what? Stockholm, Sweden has been a focal point for all of these labor disputes involving Tesla in Sweden. So officially, they're saying they're too busy for Tesla's FSD, but I'm saying there's probably a bit more to the story. And the traffic office in Sweden is making it sound like they need to send out employees to manually watch every single car that has supervised FSD, which obviously isn't the case. They really don't need to do much of anything other than saying, you know what, go ahead, send it to your customers' cars. They're ultimately still responsible. I'm just saying it doesn't pass the smell test for me. XAI is looking to raise $9.3 billion in debt and equity, but then the company plans to spend more than half of it in just the next 3 months. XAI is expecting to burn through about $13 billion over the course of 2025, more than $1 billion each month, which is pretty much in line with Tesla's CapEx expectations. Just a reminder that the spending on AI is out of control. There are estimates that over 1.8 trillion with a T of capital will be deployed by 2030 to meet demand to build out AI infrastructure. At XAI, revenues are expected to be just $500 million this year, rising to north of $2 billion next year. XAI is optimistically expecting to be profitable by 2027. The latest valuation number floating around out there, about $80 billion. The 2026 Nissan Leaf will go on sale later this year with up to 303 miles of range on a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's 3 inches shorter than before. All Leafs are powered by a single electric motor driving the front wheels. In the future, they plan to release a 52 kilowatt hour battery pack, but no pricing details have been given for any trim. This one can charge much faster, but still only up to 150 kilowatts, and it does have vehicle to load capabilities. It'll come with a standard heat pump, and interestingly, it has 2 charging ports, one J1772 and an AX. The vehicle is set to hit dealerships this fall. Pricing is expected to be under $40,000.
Totally agree. I think this is going to be a huge seller. I mean, the first generation Leaf sold like over 1 million units. Can't remember exactly, but a ton. And that was pretty early on. It's been over 1 million for a while. And I think this kind of has it for the second run. This is cool.
Elon gave a new interview and he said he was excited to be back in technology after leaving government work, but he also said, imagine you're cleaning a beach which has a few needles, trash, and is dirty. And there's a 1,000-foot tsunami, which is AI, that's about to hit. You're not going to focus on cleaning the beach. And as we've said, this is basically what we're reliant on now, Tesla and a few other companies helping us to grow out of this fiscal mess that the US government, and by default, all of its citizens, are in. Tesla stock finished the day at $316.35, down 3.88%, while the NDX was down 1%. The volume was 24% below the average. Don't forget, check out AG1 Next Gen, linked below for those interested, and as always, thank you all so much for supporting the channel in this way. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.